What is going on, everyone? This is now episode 3 of Cryptic Reasoning. I've had a really great time filming the last 2 episodes. It was really fun, you know what I mean? Like a real fun experience. I did do a little podcasting back in the day, very briefly. And then I kind of stopped abruptly because I had some things that I needed to do in life. And something kind of happened that I don't want to get too much into because that's not what this episode is about. But I said about. 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 Anyway, this is episode 3 of Cryptic Reasoning. And, you know, typically when I do these episodes, I don't, you know, sit down and write it out. I kind of just freestyle it. It's really coming from the heart. But today I kind of jotted down like a few notes. You know what I mean? Not much. A few sentences, right? Because kind of today I want to get into something that I've noticed, and I think a lot more people notice this than I do. However, not too many people kind of necessarily stand up and represent. You know, and when I say represent, not to prove something to anybody else, because you don't need to prove anything to anyone but yourself. You know what I mean? But I feel like when it comes to this, I feel like everybody wants to reap good seeds, but they don't want to plant them. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you can't plant freaking yams and expect mangoes. You can't plant, apples and expect pineapples. Okay, that one wasn't great, but you get what I'm saying. Anyway, I kind of want to talk about like our culture and why our culture just seems so backwards in terms of like how we operate. Like, why do we operate on the frequency that we operate at on such a mass scale? Like, there's a few things that I kind of noticed, and like I said, I think a lot of people have noticed these things as well. But why are the bad things considered good in our culture and the good things considered bad? You understand what I'm saying? Like why is that? Right? I mean, look, I'm not here to try to change the world. You know what I mean? I'm here to just be the example that I want to set at the end of the day. I'm not here to convince anyone that they need to do things any differently. But I want to plant seeds but good seeds. You know what I mean? So that future generations could reap these good seeds, because it doesn't make much sense. Kind of like the things that are just accepted at a mass scale. And I think people who kind of know in their heart the things that they're accepting, it doesn't sit well with them, but they accept it anyway because other people are accepting it, and it's just the way things are. I don't think it's the way things have to be. You understand what I'm saying? Because I feel like everyone kind of wants good things to be done to them, but again, they don't want to do good things to other people, which doesn't really make sense. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and act like I'm holier than thou. I'm not. I'm a human being just like everybody else. I've made a lot of mistakes. I make mistakes every day, right? Maybe not extreme mistakes, right? But I'm human just like everyone else. You understand what I'm saying? But when it's all said and done, I feel as if sometimes we got to kind of take a step back. Sometimes we're consuming something, it's too much of the same thing. We're consuming too much of the same energy. And it's like we go out, we seek that type of energy in the music that we listen to, in the places that we frequent, and the people that we keep in our lives, the people that we communicate with on a daily basis, the things that we look to for entertainment. Pardon me. All of these things kind of intertwine, right? And all of these things kind of dictate the frequency that we're operating on, if that makes sense, right? Now, the other day, something kind of struck, I want to say, I don't want to say struck. That's probably not the good. Something appeared, right? And what is it that appeared? Well, the other day, and when I say appeared, it's just how surprising it was. It just kind of just, you know what I mean? Like just popped up. And it wasn't necessarily the most important thing. Like I could think of 100 things that are 100,000 things that are more important than that happened. You know what I mean? This week, you know, but on a grand scheme of things, in terms of entertainment and in terms of the culture, like it says a lot about the culture in itself, right? So I know a lot of people kind of know about what's been happening in hip hop in terms of, all right, you have Kendrick Lamar, and then you have J. Cole, and then you have Drake, and you know these guys are considered by a lot of people to be the big three of this generation. They're like the you know, the Jay-Z, Nas of this generation, or the Jay-Z and or before that maybe like the Tupac and the Biggie, right? So this is this generation's, and I know some people are gonna be like, oh, you know, you can't compare these people, whatever. Listen, when it comes to this generation, in terms of this generation, like these are the guys that people kind of look on, and they put these people to the icon status. So it's not comparing them to say that they're like these guys. No, I'm not saying that they're like, but in a way, they are sort of like these guys in that they are the icons sort of leading this generation, right? Whether you like them or not, whether you have your opinions about them or you don't have your opinions about them. But anyway, you know, I'm sure a lot of people know that that Kendrick song dropped. A lot of people were bumping that Kendrick song everywhere you went. You would hear it was Metro Boomin featuring Future and Kendrick Lamar, and I think the name of the song was Like That. Like I bumped that song. I think that song it's phenomenal. It's a great work of art. Yeah, and I think they did a really good job on that song. I think they did a great job on that song. I think the song is catchy. I think the beat is catchy. I think Kendrick, you know, definitely did well on his verse. I think Future did well with, you know, what he does. You know what I mean? And these are guys that it's like they have their style, and they know how to use what it is that they've developed over the years to deliver art, great art, right? And this is what I see it as. It's art to me. So, you know, I didn't look at it like it was no, you know, incredibly disrespectful. I didn't think anything in it was incredibly disrespectful. I think it's like a sport. I think these guys are kind of competing to, you know, say like, you know, for the WWE title, you know what I mean? Or like, you know, the Champions League, whatever you may name, right? These guys are just competing. They're competitors that are trying to basically compete for the #1 spot, to say, for the right to say, I'm that guy of this generation, right? So anyway, that song came out. That song was buzzing. Everybody was hearing about that song. It's circulating. Everybody loves it. Oh my God, like that. You not like that. Oh, you bumping me. I love the song. The song is great. It's a great song. I've probably listened to that song a few times every day since it came out. Maybe not every day, but most of the days. You know what I mean? But yeah, that song came out. And then you know how kind of people are just kind of flip-flop. So there's a lot of people that were just now that weren't necessarily Kendrick fans that are now riding the Kendrick wave. That are like, oh man, Kendrick, Kendrick, he said this, and you know, he dissed you and blah, blah, blah. And you know how it goes. Like the schoolyard, ooh, you gonna let him say that to you? You understand what I'm saying? And Kendrick came out with his verse on that song, and it was great. You know, he did a really good job on that. And, you know, the responses were a lot of tweets. And I'm sure there's a backstory, and, you know, I didn't quite follow the beef to tell you how this started or who started what. I do remember Kendrick saying he was the king of New York at one point. but I didn't follow it too much to know all the details about it, right? But I do know it. This is not the first time this happened, and I think that these guys have kind of been just throwing jabs at each other for years. So this is Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick. I don't know who started it. I just kind of see where it's at right now, right? So then J. Cole somewhat responded, and in J. Cole's response, there was a lot of lyricism. I kind of heard like someone kind of reviewing it, but I didn't hear the whole song. The whole song didn't move me. You know what I mean? But I thought J. Cole, you know, he can hold his own when it comes to lyrics. Like when it comes to lyrics, J. Cole, you can't really doubt his lyricism. You can't doubt really any of these guys' lyricism. Like some people might have, you know, certain scars on Drake's record or report because of some ghostwriting, but that's for a completely different conversation. And as far as talent, these guys are all very talented guys. Anyway, J. Cole, after making the song, in response to what Kendrick said, J. Cole came out and it ended up apologizing. Now, a lot of people went to the internet and absolutely hammered J. Cole, right? Bashed his head in over it, right? Figuratively, not literally, of course. But they bashed his head in over it. Oh, you know, J. Cole, this soft ass, blah, 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 da, da. You know how, you could like, you know what I mean? I don't have to get too much into that. You guys know precisely what it is that I'm talking about. And I'm sure some of you might have even heard the conversations, right? I had people sending me videos. Hey, man, look at this. You understand what I'm saying? Like somebody breaking down what it is that took place in terms of what was happening with the J. Cole situation. Now, I don't look at it in the same way because I never thought of J. Cole as being the super tough guy. And I still don't see J. Cole as being the super tough guy. I don't think that this is a core audience. I think J. Cole is a real dope artist. But when it comes to being in your element, I think this is one of those situations where it was like part of him didn't want to do it because that's not what he's about. But another part of him, and I'm not saying he's completely innocent in this because he's traded jabs in the past, right? But this is something where it's like, you know, he came out and he wasn't all the way immersed in what it is that he was going to do and say, but he came out and he said it anyway. Because he felt like it needed to be said at that point. That's, you know what I mean? So all of him didn't want to do it. A part of him did, maybe because of peer pressure, maybe for whatever reason. A part of him was like, hey, listen, I'm going to respond to this Kendrick, blah, blah, blah. A few days after he put out the response, which, like I said, I didn't hear the song itself, but I did hear someone doing a response to the song, and I heard them kind of playing the lyrics, and I thought it was pretty decent. It didn't move me, but I thought it was pretty decent. Like I didn't hear the song right through, but you know what I mean? I think in terms of like the lyrical jabs, and if you're into that sort of stuff, which I am to a degree, and you know, music's evolved a lot, especially MCing and rapping. It's not just about lyricism anymore. You gotta have sauce. You understand what I'm saying? Kendrick's song had a lot of sauce and a lot of lyricism. J. Cole had a lot of lyricism, no sauce, right? So, you know what I mean? Like, you already know how that goes, you know, and the lyrics weren't like, whoa, out of this world. But at the same time, you know, his pen game is pretty good. But anyway, right? After J. Cole apologized to Kendrick Lamar, because he did it on stage. He went on stage in front of everybody at one of, supposedly, I believe was one of his concerts. He goes on stage in front of everyone and he apologizes to Kendrick Lamar and alluded to, I'm just going to let you take your best shot. for whatever reason, this is how he addressed the situation. And a lot of people had negative things to say about the way that he addressed the situation. A lot of people. Like I said, people were sending me videos. Everywhere I went, people were talking about it. And mostly the younger people, right? But at the same time, it's a reflection of the current state of our collective being, our collective existence, our collective consciousness, our collective vibration, you know what I mean, as a whole. Not to say everybody's vibrating on the same frequency, but as a whole. Yeah. So Kendrick Lamar, or J. Cole, ended up apologizing to Kendrick Lamar, and people wanted to have his head for it. Now, what's my take on that situation? Do I think he should have apologized? It's not for me to say. In hindsight, is 2020. I think maybe you shouldn't have made the song in the first place. Maybe just ignore it. If that's not your lane, if that's not what you're trying to do, maybe just ignore it. But beyond that, there's a part of J. Cole that's just a grown man. You understand what I'm saying? Maybe there's an element of man. Maybe I'm out of my element. Maybe there's a hint of that involved when it came down to it. But maybe a part of it was like, man, I'm beyond this. I don't want to compete no more. Maybe that's how he was feeling. Nonetheless, the culture is letting him have it because now he's seen as weak. Right? Because he doesn't want to get into a lyrical sparring match with someone else who's deemed to be one of the best lyricists around. Right? So whether it be those people who just want entertainment, but there are those other people that are like, man, this dude is soft and this, that, and the third. That's your perspective. I don't think he's soft for doing that. I don't view him as less of a man for doing that. But that's my perspective. And I think people shouldn't judge things by how they appear, right? Sometimes people will do that just because they know what they're capable of. And I'm not saying that this is precisely what it is that's happening at the moment, but it's okay to just let things like this, it's no big deal. No one died. No one's shooting at anyone. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that it was going to go there, but before it gets there, you know what? Whatever. You got it. Understand what I'm saying? On to the bigger and better things. On to different things. On to something else. On to, I don't know, going to play in another basketball league or whatever it is that J. Cole wants to do. Right? It's his world. What he does in his world, that's on him. What you do in your world, that's on you. What you choose to do, that's on you. And it's big of him not to allow everyone to pressure him anymore, even though he did initially, to pressure him into doing something that he doesn't want to do. Right? Anyway, how does that relate to what it is that I'm talking about? Well, the culture in itself, anything that's good is deemed bad. Would it be good for someone to be like, yo, you know what? Peace. Peace. Whatever, man. You know what? No one died, no nothing. Going about you. Listen, you my dog. I got love for you. You understand what I'm saying? This is a lyrical sparring match. I don't got no beef with you. There's no issue. It's cool. I don't see nothing wrong with that. I don't see that as weak. I really don't. That doesn't give even it doesn't give a molecule. It doesn't give any sort of indication or any sort of preview of what you would do in a real situation at all. Because that's not a real situation. This is a fabricated beef. These guys don't really have a problem with each other. This is just an ego trip. This is just I'm better than you. My shoes are better than your shoes. Who cares? Right? So now, at the end of the day, people are looking at it like, yeah, Kendrick won, this, that, and the third, blase, blase. whatever. Bygones be bygones. Now, of course, that's not the most extreme example. Of course not. A more extreme example would be people kind of doing things to one another and then bragging about it. Especially doing things to people that are innocent and then bragging about it to their friends, or doing something to people that can't defend themselves. To me, that's, I want to say the P word, but I want to keep this sort of PG. So I'm not going to say that word. But that doesn't make you, bigger, better, or tougher, or any of that sort of stuff, right? Because a lot of these dudes that are doing these things to people, most of the time they're doing this to people that can't defend themselves. Most of the times they're hurting people that don't have means of protecting themselves. And they won't do it to somebody that they deem that's tougher than them, or would do what it is that they do, unless they were at an advantage. You understand what I'm saying? And if they see the boys, if they see the blueies coming, right, they hightail it up out of there. Well, nah, you're tough, right? What you running for? Don't run from nothing. When the hurricane comes, don't run from it. When the tornado and the earthquake comes, don't run from it because you're so tough. Listen, man, I've seen some of the toughest of tough guys. Whoever you name, tougher than him. Probably. I don't have like a metric on how to measure it or whatever, but I've seen the tough guys, man. I've seen what happened to these tough guys. A lot of them. Some of them change. Very few of them grow up, mature, realize that, hey, this ain't it. But then there's others of them that I've seen what happens to them. You don't want to know what happens to those guys. Because you're only tough for a little while. You're only tough until something tougher challenges you. Right? Or it gets the upper hand on you. Now, hopefully one day this culture changes in terms of, instead of us embracing all the negativity, instead of us embracing the pain that we cause on one another, maybe let's try not to do that as much. Maybe let's plant those seeds for the future generation. Maybe tell them, you know what I mean? If you wouldn't want somebody to do that to you, don't do it to them. Now, mind you, if someone is trying to harm your family or harm somebody that you care about or harm you, you have every right to defend yourself and defend your family. I will never, ever, 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 ever tell you not to defend yourself and not to defend your family. I would never do it. Because I know what I would do for my family. But just to go out there and just do something to somebody, man, that's bogus. That's bogus. I look down on that sort of stuff. And then when people try to come around and say, oh, that guy, he's the man because he does this and that and the third. Bro, who cares, bro? That doesn't make him tough. That doesn't make him tougher than anyone else. It just makes him a maniac. It makes him unnecessarily dangerous. Unnecessarily dangerous. And there's nothing wrong with, again, defending your family. But why do you need to be unnecessarily dangerous? Is it a defense mechanism? Are you really a coward on the inside? And a lot of these people that people tend to look up to, they talk about all this, OG this and OG that. And listen, man, you don't know what these people be doing behind closed doors. And sometimes you don't even want to know. This is cryptic reasoning. That's why I'm leaving a lot of these things up to your imagination for you to figure out for yourself. So here on this show, we're not always going to tell you what it is. We're going to allow you to think for yourself. But the stuff that goes on behind closed doors, you wouldn't think your OG was doing that. Not because the way how he operates, you wouldn't think that he would be doing stuff like that. You know what I mean? But a lot of these dudes are undercover. Make of that what you may. Make of that what you may. Right? And that has multiple meanings. For the record. Many of them. And look, I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like I have a problem with people that I don't have a problem with. I just have a problem with the way that people operate when it comes to one another. I don't think it's cool. What's that they used to say? I don't think it's P. They don't say that no more, do they? A lot of people aren't saying that like before. But yeah, our culture has a lot of growing up to do. Our culture on a whole. And when I say our culture, I want you to really look into that. Think for yourself. Who am I talking about when I say our culture? But you know, if you're going outside and you're seeing that, I'm referring to your culture as well. If that's what the predominant thing that's happening around you, that's the culture that I'm referring to. And I really think that we could do better. I do. I think that we can. I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to convert no one to anything. I'm not here to convert anyone from anything. I'm just here to say, man, look, we can plant better seeds. We're all farmers. We're all planting seeds, whether or not we know we're planting seeds or not. So we're capable of planting better seeds. Ask yourself, what do I want to reap from this situation? Do I want to reap negativity or do I want to reap positivity? So if I want to reap negativity, what seeds am I going to plant? If I want to reap positivity, then what seeds am I going to plant? And the ball's in your court. Do with that what you will. But I seriously think that we could do a lot better. I think that the kids that are coming up can do a lot better. I think I want kids to just remain kids until they become adults. I don't think kids should be exposed to certain things. I think they should remain children. I think they should be protected. I think they should be loved. You know what I mean? And when that's the foundation, then they too learn how to protect and how to love the generation after them. But they got to be taught that. They got to be shown that. Have to be. And who else is going to do it? Starts with you. Starts with me. And forget about your past and what's happened in the past. I'm talking about right now. What are we going to do right now for the future generations? What are the seeds that we're planting now? And I'm not talking, but it doesn't have to be something financial. You may not got it like that. But spiritual, mental. What are the seeds you're planting? Anyway, this has been another episode of Cryptic Reasoning, episode number 3. If you like the video, you know what to do. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. There will be more content coming in the future. Thank you very much for staying tuned. And big up to our podcasting group over there that we have on Facebook. You guys have been very phenomenal, and we're going to continue to grow. You know, I think by the end of this month, we'll be at like 3,000 members. I believe we will be. I believe we'll reach that milestone before that. But I think quality over quantity. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. And anyway, salute to everyone new. If you're just tuning into the podcast, welcome to Cryptic Reasoning. Have a good night.